welcome back. This is just a continuation video from where I finished off last time, and also I just wanted to talk to you about some other things that have been going on in my life lately. One thing I do want to say is I do get the odd comment, and I just delete them because I'm sorry, I'm not putting up with it. And for the vast majority of you on here are really good and, you know, and understand, yeah. But you do get the odd comment. And just don't waste your time, because all I do is I just delete it. I don't want any toxicity on my page. I do these videos for fun. Yes, I'm aware that is not perfect technology. I don't have the money to go and splash out on expensive equipment. So, you know, if you don't like my style, if it irritates you, just don't watch. I don't care. Because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm doing this just for fun. You know, it's just amateur, nothing serious. So if you don't like it, don't watch it. No one's making you watch my videos. If you don't like my videos, don't watch them. I don't care. You know, it's up. You know, at the end of the day, I don't care. I'm not doing this for. I'm not doing this professionally. I'm doing this for fun. I don't get paid to do this. This is just in my own fair time. I do this as an amateur hobby. I do it for myself as much as anything. So if you don't like my videos, like I say, no one's making you watch them. Obviously I hope you do enjoy them, and it's great if you do. But like I say, no one's making you watch them. So if you haven't got anything nice to say, don't comment, don't waste your time, because I'll just be deleting it. So I just wanted to make that very clear. Most of you are absolutely lovely, and most of your comments are lovely. You know, I'm all for feedback. You know, feel free to post feedback. You know, and things like that. But stuff about equipment and, you know, saying, oh, can't you go and invest in a better camera and all that malarkey. I'm sorry, I don't have time for that. I'll just delete it, because I'm not investing in a better camera. At the end of the day, I don't have the money. I'm on benefits. I don't have the money to spend on expensive equipment, and I do this for fun. So like I say, if you don't like it, don't watch it. It's as simple as that. Right, with that said, I am now going to carry on from where I left off last time, because I was talking about... I was talking about invasive plants, and I had been talking about giant hogweed. So thank you all for your comments on that topic. I might do another comments video at some point. Yeah, so I was just talking, in my previous video I had been talking about giant hogweed, and how I'd recently got rather interested in this evil plant, and how it's the most dangerous plant in the UK, not for anyone to go near and touch. And now in this video I just wanted to carry on where I left off on the topic of plants, just to talk a little bit about hemlock. Now there are two types of hemlock that grow in the UK. There's hemlock water dropwort and there's poison hemlock. Very similar in terms of their lethality. Slight differences in appearance, but not major, but there are some slight differences. And hemlock is the most lethal plant. I'm not including mushrooms in this, by the way. There's some really, really toxic mushrooms out there. I'm talking about leafy plants. Hemlock is the most poisonous. In terms of, like, yeah, the most lethal. It's not the most dangerous plant in the UK. That goes to giant hogweed. That's in the sense that you literally have to, like, ingest hemlock for its lethal impact. Like, you're not going to... Usually you won't get any effects just by brushing past it. It's not a contact poison like giant hogweed. The main issue with hemlock is those who are most at risk of hemlock poisoning are children, who tend to put, young children who have a tendency to put things in their mouth. You have to be very careful with small children. And also foragers, could potentially be at risk because they might confuse hemlock potentially with cow parsley or common hogweed. So they have to be very careful, and I don't go foraging. I'm not a forager, but I wouldn't trust myself, particularly with my OCD. I'm not someone who, I would have a really bad OCD about that. Obviously, for people who know what they're doing, foraging is great and fun, but I wouldn't trust myself. But yeah, foragers do have to be particularly careful with any plant in the carrot family, because while the carrot family does contain many edibles, it can also contain some of the most poisonous and dangerous plants. So you do have to be very careful around the carrot family. So first of all then, hemlock water dropwort. So hemlock water dropwort is the most poisonous plant in the UK, and it is very common along our waterways. So you're going to find it in canals and around rivers, hence its name, water dropwort. It grows in and around water. It's quite a tall plant. It can grow quite tall. So it's a lot bigger than cow parsley, but in its early stages, there's more of a risk that a forager might confuse it potentially with cow parsley when it's still growing and it hasn't yet got to its full height. But at its full height, it's quite a tall plant, so a lot taller than cow parsley. It's also called, by the way, dead man's fingers, and that's because its roots do look a little bit like fingers, stubby fingers. Its roots look a bit like parsnips, and they can often be found washed up. Sometimes you can even find them washed up on shorelines as well. The danger there is that a dog might potentially eat them, and there have been cases of dogs getting hemlock poisoning and dying that way. So that's another danger, like dogs could potentially eat them, like the roots, and they do look a little bit like parsnips. So again, say someone who doesn't know what they're doing might think, oh, there's a nice parsnip, and pick it up and like cook with it. And the actual taste is quite bitter, by the way. So that in of itself might prevent someone from eating too much of it. But I think there was actually a case of some students who actually picked some dead man's fingers for parsnip-like roots of hemlock, and actually made a curry out of them, and luckily they didn't eat too much and they had to go to hospital and everything, and luckily they did survive, so thankfully they didn't eat too much of it. But yeah, not a good idea. The actual scientific name, and I might be pronouncing this wrong because I'm not very good at pronouncing these names. You don't pronounce the O, I don't think. It's Enantha. It's got an O in front, but I don't think you pronounce that. It's Enantha. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. I'm not sure if you pronounce the E or not. Anyway, assuming you do. It's Enantha crocata. Yeah, I'd have to double check how you pronounce that first word because I'm not very great at pronouncing these words. It's scientific, Latin, I think. Actually, no, it's Greek. The name's Greek, not Latin. It's Greek in this case. Yeah, it's Greek. It's a hairless umbellifer. So it's hairless. Water hemlock dropwort has a hairless stem. And yeah, its genus name, Enantha, is Greek, and it actually means wine, implying that the scent of a flower is a bit like wine. I'm not sure about that, but that's what it says. I've never smelt the flower, so I can't comment on that, but apparently the scent of the flower is a bit like wine. And also from anthos, that's fairly obvious, which means flower. And crocata means like a crocus. Some people suggest that's because of the yellow colour of the seeds, possibly, but also the stem actually exudes a yellow-like sap as well, so it might come from that. It has very bright green and shiny leaves. It has a bright green, hollow, grooved, hairless stem, and it's up to about 6 feet tall. So yeah, quite a tall plant. So what hemlock water dropwort doesn't have any purple blotches on its stem. That's how it's different to poison hemlock, which does. Hemlock water dropwort has a bright green stem. And it actually has quite a pleasant smell. And again, that's how it also differs from poison hemlock, because poison hemlock smells horrible. Whereas hemlock water dropwort actually has quite a pleasant smell. So it doesn't actually, so there's nothing there to suggest it's toxic as well. It actually has quite a nice smell, a little bit like sweet parsley, a lovely smell. And its root is said to taste a bit like parsnip. You don't want to try that. And actually, interestingly, by the way, the term sardonic gwyn comes from the practice in Phoenician Sardinia of disposing of criminals using the plant. Because the poison constricts the muscles, and so it causes death by asphyxia, which causes a rictus-like death gwyn, like a sardonic gwyn, like that. Sardonic gwyn, which actually comes from the use of this plant in executions in Sardinia. I never knew that before, so that's something I learned recently. So yes, as I mentioned already, it's in a carrot family. Now, carrot family, the scientific name for that is the Apiaceae family, which is the carrot family, and that comes from the Latin apium. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but anyway, it's from the Latin for celery, because celery is in that family as well, and obviously we know carrots are in that family. That's why it's often called the carrot family, or it could equally be called the celery family. But yeah, carrots, celery, parsley, all of those are in that family. So that's hemlock water dropwort, and as in its name, you are going to find that near water, hence the name. But there is another type of hemlock that grows in the UK called poison hemlock. And the stems of poison hemlock are a bit different to hemlock water dropwort. They are large stems. Like with hemlock water dropwort, they are hairless, they don't have any hair on them. But unlike the hemlock water dropwort, they have purple spots or blotches along its length. And the leaves are fine, and they look a little similar to ferns. So they have a sort of lacy, kind of parsley-like appearance, similar to that of others in the carrot family, you know, if you think of like carrot leaves like that. It's a tall plant, again, it does grow quite tall. So a tall plant, this plant can be over 6 feet. Not as big as giant hogweed, but it can be quite tall. But this plant, poison hemlock, can smell very unpleasant. People often say it's got quite sort of like a mousy smell. So this one doesn't smell nice. And that acts as a deterrent, hopefully for animals and people from actually eating it. Because it actually smells not nice. And the flower, it flowers after cow parsley. It tends to flower around sort of like June and July time. That's like its sort of main flowering period. It could potentially be confused with upright hedge parsley. So that could be a potential confusion there for like foragers. Potentially have to be careful. Prefers damp places again. So unlike hemlock water dropwort, it doesn't just grow around like riverbanks and stuff, but it does still generally prefer damp places. So again, you are still going to find this around areas likely where there are water nearby. The leaves are finely divided but quite large. Its scientific name, maculatum, means spotted. It's Conium maculatum. And conium is the Greek for hemlock, and it may be related to connas, which is to whirl, in reference to vertigo, which is a symptom of ingesting it. But there is a slight difference in the leaves between water hemlock and poison hemlock. The leaves of water hemlock are not as fern-like as poison hemlock, and the stems of water hemlock are not spotted with purple. Okay, so hemlock, both poison hemlock and water hemlock are both very, very dangerous. I'm not sure if one is more dangerous than the other. I think they're both equally dangerous. But yes, nothing's going to happen if you just brush past it. It's not dangerous in a way that giant hogweed is, but it's not a plant you want to eat. It is very, very poisonous. There are some other poisonous plants that I won't have time to talk about in this video. For example, wolfsbane, which is also can be very deadly if someone were to eat it. Wolfsbane and deadly nightshade, particularly the berries. Children risk there. They only need to eat a few berries for it to be lethal, by the way. Deadly nightshade, very dangerous for children. And there are also some other contact poison plants as well you have to be careful around handling, but I don't have time to go into that now. Okay, so I'm going to move over to video number 2 now, because in the next video I just want to talk about some other things that have been going on lately. So moving over to video number 2.